Ms. Morana? The Canada license, or the license that was issued to Canada by Geology, have you seen that document? You can't hear? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm fine.
Hello? Mr. Marana, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, yes.
Honorable Commissioners, can you hear me? Shall I proceed? Mr. Marana, the license issued to Carnegie, whilst you were Solicitor General, did you see that license?
Yes, I have seen a copy of that license in the Ministry of Justice, yes.
Did the ministry advise on that license before it was issued?
Well, I would not know, because I think this license was negotiated and issued some years ago, before I was in a position to know about the advice issued on licenses and contracts generally. I was a junior officer then, so I wouldn't know whether there was any formal advice on the license.
Was there formal advice on the license? He says he doesn't know. So you're also not in a position to know that the Commonwealth advised the ministry against entering into an agreement with Canada?
No, I would not know.
Have you seen the license issued to Gamico?
No, I have not seen that license.
Mr. Marana, from the testimony before the Commission, it was stated that Carnegie, there was a stockpile prior to Carnegie taking over the license. Do you know what happened to that stockpile?
No, I would not know about that.
The former Attorney General, Ms. Marison, indicated that a list relating to the equipment Carnegie left behind had been done by the ministry or by the police after the termination of the Carnegie license. Have you seen that list?
I don't remember seeing that list, except if the arbitration file, which contains all the information relating to Carnegie, I have an opportunity of looking at it again. I don't remember, seeing such list.
Is the arbitration file before the Commission?
I want to believe the arbitration file was tendered before the Commission.
The only documents tendered relating to, that I can see, or that have been provided by the Commission, relates to the arbitration award and correspondence between Mayor Brown and the ministry. Is that what was contained in the arbitration file?
No, certainly the Carnegie file was a whole pack of all the correspondence relating to the pre-arbitration, proceedings. So certainly there's a lot more in the Carnegie file than just the arbitration award and the award itself.
Honorable Commissioner, might at this stage ask for the production of the Carnegie file. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I would at this stage request for the production of the Carnegie file.
Sorry, you are asking for the production of the
Carnegie file, which is with the Commission.
Carnegie file.
Yes,
Now,
Mr. Commissioner.
Is it in evidence?
No, Mr. Commissioner, Honorable Chairman, it's not in evidence. I'm asking for it to be produced so that we can review it and see whether it should be in evidence. This is a commission of...
I didn't get that.
I'm asking...
You are asking whom?
I'm asking the witness to produce the Carnegie file, which he indicates is with the Commission.
I see. Well, it will first be established. Can you continue with the cross-examination and ask whether he has the file?
Ask the Commissioner, please. I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Marana, do you have the file relating to Carnegie with you?
Yes, the file was submitted to the investigators at the Commission.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
The file relating to Carnegie was submitted to the Commission through the investigators.
Through the...
And it was not returned to you, it's still with the investigators?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm asking for the production of the Carnegie file, which is with the Commission's investigators.
If you want the file to be produced, you will have to, since it is not a file that has been admitted in evidence, you have to liaise with the Secretariat so that they could deal with it as far as the investigator is concerned.
I'm grateful. It's noted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Marana, a winding up was instituted against Carnegie by the government of the Gambia, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I'm having difficulty. What is the question?
That a winding up proceeding was instituted by the government of the Gambia against Carnegie.
The what? The arbitration?
No, winding up proceedings in the Gambia was instituted by the government of the Gambia against Carnegie.
Yes, yes.
And his answer was yes. Can you tell the Commission what happened to the equipment? Or what happened to the assets vis-a-vis the winding up?
Well, I know that a liquidator was appointed pursuant to the winding up proceedings. I am not sure exactly at what stage the liquidation is in terms of the disposal of the assets. I have to find out exactly what the liquidator has been able to dispose of in terms of the assets of Carnegie that were in the Gambia.
Would the assets include those that were left behind by Carnegie? I mean, the assets include those who were left behind by Carnegie as against the arbitration award?
Well, certainly the assets are the assets of Carnegie in Gambia. So whatever belonged to Carnegie, in Gambia.
Mr. Marana, after finding out the current position regarding the winding up, including what assets were being claimed, would you be in a better position to give further information to the Commission on that matter?
Definitely, yes.
Okay. I'll move on from Carnegie, which you will have to come back to and answer some questions.
Mr. Chairman, just to be of assistance, the liquidator, Mr. Augustus Prom, actually gave evidence regarding the liquidation. And maybe counsel may not have been aware of this. Maybe we can avail her with the records on the liquidation. The liquidator did give evidence and tendered the list of equipment, as well as, I believe, a report. I'm saying this so that, because we really don't have time, so that Mr. Marina doesn't have to come back if the evidence is already on record through another witness.
I'm grateful to counsel, but that, as I've indicated to the Commission before, the records I have are up to December 2017. I do not have transcripts following from January. So if Mr. Prom testified thereafter, I am not aware of it. Hence my questions to Mr. Marina.
Very well. What do you want exactly, Mrs. Andrews?
I'll reserve the right to recall Mr. Marina on this issue, but taking the cue from counsel, and I will look at the records of the testimony of Mr. Prom. I may not need to call Mr. Marina on this issue if everything is, if I can, after having reviewed the testimony of Mr. Prom.
Very well.
I'm grateful. Mr. Marina, do you know of a company called Canapro?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell the Commission who Canapro are?
Well, Conapro was a Lebanese company that had entered into an oil supply contract with the government of the Gambia.
And what year was this that they entered into a contract?
I can't recall offhand which year this was, but I know that they had entered into a contract.
Was this during the period when your African group had exclusivity for fuel supply to the Gambia?
I need to confirm both, periods for me to really say yes or no.
Okay. Was your ministry requested, did you receive a request for legal opinion on the agreement entered into with Canapro by the Gambian government?
Say that again, please.
Did your ministry...
Sorry, we didn't get the question at all. Can you say it again?
I will. Sorry. Did you receive a request for a legal opinion relating to Canapro? A legal opinion. Did your ministry receive a request?
If I may clarify, a request from who?
From the Office of the President, from the Ministry of Energy, regarding Canapro before an agreement was entered into for fuel supply?
From the records at the ministry, there was no legal advice on the contract before it was signed.
Okay. What happened with Canapro? Did they perform the contract?
Well, the contract was terminated before the performance had even started, and Conapro initiated arbitration proceedings against the government of the Gambia, and subsequently the case was settled amicably between the Gambia government and Conapro sometime last year.
Sometime last year, in 2017?
2017, yes.
Do you know what the breach was?
Well, it was a termination.
Just
the government terminated the contract even before, the contract could be performed.
Okay. Mr. Marina, Did the Office of the President require, no, let me rephrase. When legal opinions were requested from your ministry, did they have to go to the Office of the President for approval?
Can you repeat that question?
When legal opinions were requested from your ministry relating to any matter, did they have to go to the Office of the President for approval? Did the President have to approve them?
No, certainly. Legal opinions are not for the approval of anybody.
Okay.
I mean, the Ministry of Justice is the authority responsible for issuing legal opinions. Of course, if the request comes from the Office of the President, the opinion is sent to the Office of the President, not for approval, but for information.
Thank you. At this junction, that is all for the witness. I will have to look at the evidence of Mr. Prom and inform the Secretariat on whether or not I'll be recalling Mr. Marena. And Mr. Marena has also indicated that he does not have the certain information relating to CANAPRO, but which he can provide. I think what they're asking for CANAPRO, which is already in half.
Maybe it comes out, huh? No, okay.
I'm sorry.
Very well, Counsel.
Yes.
Counsel, do you have anything else to say?
No, Mr. Chairman. MS-40. Can MS-40 be brought, please? MS-40.
Nothing. He's asking for MS-40.
I have no questions on re-examination.
Thank you, Mr. Marena. You may leave. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Honorable Commissioners, I recall Maricen Firdaus for cross-examination at the instance of Mr. Mohamed Bazi and Mr. Fadima Zegi. Can you collect the exhibits? No, the exhibits from council.
Good morning, Ma. May I please remind you of your oath?
Good morning. Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Commissioner. May I proceed? May I proceed with cross-examination?
Yes, you may.
Ms. Sen, good morning.
Good morning.
Whilst you were in the office of the Attorney General, or the Attorney General, did you see the contract relating to the license relating to Kanergy?
Yes, the first time I saw it was the meeting we had on the 15th of January. That was the first time I saw the license.
When you testified, you said Kanergy was already in operation at the time you took office.
Yes, I did.
Were you aware from the records at the ministry that an opinion had been received from the Commonwealth advising against the government of the Gambia entering into an agreement with Kanergy?
No, I was not aware.
The list which you mentioned was created following the termination of the Kanergy license. Was that brought to your attention? Did you see that list?
I need clarity. What do you mean by the list?
The list of equipment, sorry. You indicated when you testified that a list of equipment at the site had been conducted.
I did not say that there was a list. I said an inventory of what could be accessed from the site was done. That was what I said.
Did you see this inventory?
The inventory was in the file that was the file that was developed by the police for prosecution.
Did you see this inventory?
I believe I saw it once because the file was at the office of the DPP, yes. I saw something once. Thank you.
Do you recall whether this inventory included list of equipment?
I can't recall because it was a long time, but what I could recall is that it was a list of what could be accessed on the site at the time.
When you say a list of what could be accessed, what do you mean?
I mean the things that they found there, equipment, documents, but I can't recall exactly. But then what they indicated was that what they could access on the site, that was what they took inventory of.
Was an inventory done of the office premises of Kanergy?
I don't know. I can't recall. The best person to answer this would be the police because they were the ones who did the investigation.
But the documents were sent to your office, were they not?
A case file was brought to my office, yes, at the office of the DPP. But I can't for sure tell whether everything that was in that file was everything that was done by the police. We saw a case file, and on the basis of what was in the case file, that was what I gave evidence of.
Ms. Sen, you indicated that you were called to the office of the president and you found certain investors present together with Mr. Bazzi.
Yes, I did.
The presentation given by the investors, were you ever provided with a hard copy, or was it just a verbal?
No, it was a laser presentation, and we were never given a hard copy. We were just invited to witness. We didn't even make comments. We just listened.
You've also stated that, again at the office of the president, you came across Mr. Bazzi, and on that occasion, you were requested to look at a contract. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
You presumed by your testimony that that contract related to Gamico, because you were later told that Gamico was now mining. Is that correct?
What I stated was that that contract was Gamico, was for Gamico. I was very sure because I opened the document. It was the sheer volume of the document that warranted that I needed more time. But I looked at the contract, it was for Gamico. So I was sure that that contract was for Gamico.
But Ms. Sen, the Gamico was a license, that was not a contract.
Yes, it was a license contract. You call it a contract, but it was a license allowing that, whether we call it a contract or a license, it was a document giving them the permission to mine the mineral sands. So you can call it a contract. It was a mining contract or a mining license, whatever name you want to call it.
Do you know that the license Gamico signed was exactly the same as that of Carnegie's, with exception of the pricing?
They were very similar indeed, because like I said, if you look at it, it was a tick document, and just looking at the beginning was similar. But I don't know exactly the details inside because I didn't have the opportunity to review it. I did not have that opportunity. It may be similar.
Miss Sen, you indicated you were not certain, but you may have, but Ms. Farage was present at that meeting.
Yes.
Could you be mistaken?
No, the reason why I said that because Ms. Farage has been the local partner working with Mr. Bazzi, and I want to believe she was there, yes.
You want to believe and
Yes.
being a fact are not the same?
She
Are
was-
you absolutely
she
certain?
She was there, yes. She was there.
Okay. Ms. Sen, I'm putting it to you that Ms. Farage was not present at the office of the president.
We were at the office of the Secretary General, and she was there. She was the one even holding the document. The document, the license was with her. She was there, Mr. Bazzi was there, Tenengba Jaita was there, I was there, and two gentlemen that I don't know.
Ms. Sen, you have moved from I may be mistaken to absolutely sure.
Yes, I said I could
That is
recall. I could recall, and I'm not mistaken because, you know, the lawyer was there, and she was the lawyer for Mr. Bazzi.
Ms. Sen, would I be correct in saying that you required approval from the Office of the President regarding certain legal opinions, certain charges to be laid. Would I be correct in saying that?
Can you be specific? You said certain approval. With respect to what?
Whether or not you could proceed on certain matters, whether or not charges were to be laid against certain persons.
No, as Attorney General, except if the law so requires. But other than that, as Attorney General, you have the power to prosecute any matter, except if the law requires you to get approval. But no, generally as Attorney General, I don't.
So you've never received instructions from the Office of the President to prosecute certain matters?
For the Carnegie case, yes, there were instructions that we should proceed, but investigations had to be conducted. It was not that you just go and prosecute. The request, we received the instructions. It was not in writing, it was verbal, and I made testimony to that effect here, that I was called to the State House and I was asked to prosecute, but on condition that investigations would be conducted, and we proceeded on that basis. There was an investigation which we conducted, and on the basis of that investigations, charges were filed against Carnegie.
So instructions from the President in your department were only carried out, according to you, if they fell in line with the laws?
Indeed.
Ms. Sen, you have given evidence on oath here. You also testified in the arbitration proceedings in London, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Your testimony here is that you do not believe the Gambian government had a strong footing in the arbitration proceedings.
Yes.
What was your testimony in the arbitration proceedings?
I can't recall. There were so many questions that were asked. It was a testimony for over an hour. I can't recall exactly. It was based, I answered questions that were put to me. I can't recall exactly. But like I said, my stand did not change. I just went there as a witness and I gave evidence to what I know.
And you do not recall the evidence you gave?
I can't recall exactly.
Sorry, what's the last question?
You do not recall the evidence you gave at the arbitration proceedings?
Like I said, it was a question and answers for 1 hour.
What year was...
I can't recall word for word what I said.
What year was this?
This was in 2012.
Ms. Sen, you were a witness for the government, is that correct?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall what the government's position was at the arbitration proceedings?
I don't think I can recall everything. If I could get access to the documentation, yes, but I can't recall everything. But one thing, because I recall that when I met with the lawyers at the time, they agreed with me that my advice was in order, the advice I gave to the government. And they just asked me to cooperate with them and make sure that questions that were asked to me, I respond to the best of my ability. So that was what I did.
I have no further questions for the witness.
I have no questions in re-examination.
Thank you, Madam. You may leave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Honorable Commissioners, I recall Mr. Buba Sanyang for cross-examination at the instance of Mr. Mohammed Bazi and Mr. Fadi Mazege. What are you saying?
Hello, sir. Please be reminded that you are still on the oath.
Oh, I wasn't sure he was answering. Shall I proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Just hold on 1 minute, okay? Very well. You can carry on now.
Thank you. Mr. Sanya, you're currently the permanent secretary for lands, is that correct?
Yes.
And prior to that, you were the director of lands?
Yes.
Sorry, lands, yeah. Does the ministry have a policy or the government have a policy on the allocation of land to investors?
Yes, we do have a policy to allocate land to investors, provided they have all the requirement for the allocation.
Whilst you've been in the office as Director of Lands or as PS at the ministry, do you recall how many allocations you've done to investors?
No, I cannot recall the number, but we have done some.
Can you name some?
We've allocated to an investor like the seafood factory. There is a seafood factory at Sanyang.
Okay. Do you allocate lands to hotels?
Hotel, not directly, it's done by the ministry, but then it's been designated for tourist development area, which is done by the Gambia Tourism Board.
So allocation of land to investor is a normal transaction in the Gambia?
Yes.
Do these investors have to pay for the land?
There is an application fee that they paid.
Do you recall what the application fee is?
Currently it's 50,000.
15?
50.
Okay. So they don't have to pay market value for the land?
No.
Would the government appropriate land to give to an investor?
Come again?
Would the government take land that belongs to an individual or another person to give to an investor?
Yes, that's what we call re-entry. A government can re-enter land and then allocate to somebody else, provided that that first allottee doesn't fulfill requirements or has been found wanting or one way or the other.
What about land belonging on to customary tenure owners, which is not a leased land as at that stage? Would the government take that and give to investors?
Yeah, for public use, government can take any part of the land to designate it and use it for public use. Within the state land, they can also allocate land. But for customary tenure, that is a different arrangement. It starts from the local authorities.
And who would be responsible for paying compensation to the owner of the land? Would it be the government or the person to whom it's been allocated?
There is a law which says the act policy, that is the Land Acquisition and Compensation Act, where when government acquired land through acquisition, forceful acquisition, they are obliged to compensate the person or people affected.
Okay. Thank you. That is all for this witness.
Just a few questions, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sanyang, I just want you to clarify your answer concerning state land. It's correct, is it not, that the State Lands Act created what are called deemed leases. Yes, let's take a minute.
Yes.
Yes. And it's also correct that these deemed leases are with regard to land that are owned by communities and families.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sanya. You may go now.
Thank you.
Honorable Commissioners, I call Mr. Abdukoli, a new witness. My witness. Chegal. Chegal, yeneen witness.
I swear by the Almighty Allah that the evidence I shall give to this commission shall be the truth, the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me Allah.
So help me Allah.
Thank you, sir.
Could you kindly state your names? State your names, please.
My name is Abdul Koli.
Where do you live, Mr. Koli?
I live in Kembuje.
Kembuje, that's Kombo East?
Kombo Central,
Kombo Central.
next to Brikama.
What work do you do?
Okay.
What work do you do now?
I'm now a freelance consultant and also engaged in farming.
And also?
Farming.
A farmer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Farming.
You served in the government as minister?
I can hardly hear you.
You served as minister in the government?
Yes, I did.
Please sit down. You served as minister.
Yes, I did.
Could you just give us an overview of your career? Before you give us an overview of your career as minister, did you serve in the government before you became minister?
Yes, I did.
Okay. In what capacity?
I started work in government in '97 as an economist in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs.
Okay. Can you give us an overview of your career?
Okay. And I worked there until 2000 when the unit that I was working in was transformed into Gambia Divestiture Agency. So I continued working for that agency until 2004 when I was appointed as national economist at the UNDP in Banjul. So I worked at UNDP from 2004 to 2007 when I was appointed as Minister of Trade, Industry and Employment.
2007?
2007, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yes, continue.
Then from there, I have been moving between the two ministries mainly, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Finance. I will be moved from one ministry to another, serve a period, and then keep back and forth. So if you want the dates, I can give you the exact dates I served in each of these ministries.
Yes, the dates are important.
Okay. So I was first appointed Minister of Trade on 26th of February 2007, and I served until the 19th of June 2009. I was redeployed to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs as Minister, where I served from that 19th of June to the 19th of March 2010. And I was relieved as Minister. And 24th of March, that same month, 2010, I was appointed Minister of Trade, and I served until 21st of July 2010. So that's about 4 months. I was redeployed to Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. I served in that capacity from 21st of July 2010 to 26th of January 2011. And again, I was redeployed to Ministry of Trade, where I served from the 26th of June to 18th of March 2011. Then I was relieved. 1 month later, 14th of April, I was again reappointed Minister of Trade, and I served from that 14th of April 2011 to 1st of February 2012, when Cabinet was dissolved following the swearing in of the President after the elections. And then I was appointed on the 6th of February 2012 to 16th of April 2012 as Minister of Fisheries, Water Resources and Environment. And then I was redeployed to Ministry of Finance on the 16th of April 2012, and I served until 10th of July 2013. And I was redeployed back to Ministry of Trade, where I served from 10th of July 2013 to 11 June 2014. And I was relieved. I stayed out of government until 16th of March 2015, when I was again appointed as Minister of Finance, and I served until the 16th of January 2017, when I tendered my resignation.
Do you have your resignation letter, by the way?
Unfortunately, I didn't come with it, but I think I should have it on.
But that's fine. We'll require that you submit a copy.
Okay.
You have made statements in relation to the fuel exclusivity contract that was granted to Euro Africa Group, as well as a statement regarding the capacity charge at NAWEC. I'm going to show you these two statements. Kindly confirm that you did make these statements. I'm also at the same time going to show you documents that are correspondences between the Ministry of Finance, Office of the President, and Euro-Africa Group during 2013. First, confirm that those are your statements. We'll be applying to have them admitted. Those are your statements.
Yes,
Just put
these
them
are my
to the
statements.
side. Yes, I'll collect them later. Can you go through the bundle of documents that I have shown you? The top is a letter dated 8th May 2013. And it's signed by Abdukoli Minister, addressed to Euro-Africa Group.
Yes.
Yes, go through. Then the second one is a letter from Euro-Africa Group to the Honorable Minister Abdukoli.
Yes.
Just go through and confirm whether these are correspondences during the period you were Minister of Finance. The earliest is 8th May 2013, and the last one is 15 July 2013.
Yes, these are letters that I had written.
The letters you're...
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't catch what you said. These are letters?
I said these are letters that I had written.
What about the ones that that are addressed to yourself as
Yes.
Minister of Finance?
Yes,
Are you familiar with those
yes,
you are going through?
It's in response to those letters.
Okay, very well. Thank you. You may retain them until you finish your testimony. You may want to refer to them.
Okay.
Now, you were summoned firstly with respect to the fuel exclusivity contract to Euro-Africa Group or associate company. We would like you to explain, as Minister of Finance, because this had to do with Minister of Finance, we haven't seen anything connecting trade to it yet. Could you explain your role? We note, of course, that you became Minister of Finance for the first time, according to the evidence that you have just given, in June 2009.
Yes.
Yes. Could you tell us about this exclusivity? Your role in this exclusivity. One of the things we're trying to really understand is why this exclusivity, which seemed to have spanned somewhere between the first 2 years of 2000 until 2014 or thereabouts. It's a very long time. We're trying to understand it. So you may proceed to explain your role in it and what happened during your tenure.
Thank you very much, Madam. On fuel exclusivity with Euro-Africa, I would say I had no role in that because by the time I was minister, the exclusivity was already in place. And going by the correspondences that I had written, you would notice that I was not in favor of that exclusivity.
Can you be specific to the correspondence?
Pardon?
No, go ahead. I'll ask you questions
Yes,
later.
I was not in favor of that exclusivity because of several reasons. The principal reason being, after I was made Minister of Finance, I had noticed on several occasions that Euro-Africa Group was not meeting their obligations in terms of financing the facility with IDB. And this was a primary concern for me.
Sorry,
Islamic
IDB.
Development Bank.
Yes.
This is a facility that was secured by government, and as part of the implementation of the facility, government was to appoint an executing agent. And this executing agent was Euro Africa, because I was told they had the exclusivity, so the facility was given to them to execute. But it meant that they had to repay the facility. But sometimes when it comes to repaying the facility, they will not pay, and they will tell us, we are unable to pay because NAWEC has not paid us their bills. So I found that very disturbing, because I said to them, yes, NAWEC may not have paid you, but NAWEC is not the only person that you are supplying with this facility. You are importing fuel that all other operators are taking from you, and they are paying. So what is preventing you from paying back the IDB facility when it is due? So for me, that was my battle, to get them to honor their obligations and not to put government in a very funny situation. I found them, for me, it's like taking government to ransom. Because what happens is each time they default, the entire government portfolio with IDB gets suspended. So you don't get disbursements on all other projects that are financed by the IDB. So this was the stake that, that is involved with this exclusivity in terms of fuel importation. And I had to do everything possible to try to get that broken, so that if they are to continue supplying, let other operators also come in and supply fuel, and there be competition.
Okay. Now let's look at the letters that I have given you. The first letter is a letter dated 8th May 2013 that you wrote. And in which you said you acknowledge receipt of a letter dated April 29, 2013, which unfortunately because it doesn't have a reference, we are looking for, in which you notified us of your incapacity to supply HFO to NAWEC, among other things. In your submission, you seem to justify your decision by associating it with a purported decision by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs informing ISDB that it wishes to utilize the 10 million revolving facility for other projects instead of heavy fuel oil. You said, let me categorically state that such allegation is misguided and misinformed, as my ministry never made any such statement to IDB. What was this about?
Maybe I need to refer to their letter first, because I was responding to their letter. But
unfortunately, as I said, we don't have the letter. If you need it, we will look for it to answer. Ms.
well, if you continue the sentence,
Yes.
where I say, for your information, the other projects that IDB is processing for the Gambia are completely different and financed independently of the fuel facility. Because if my memory serves me right, in their letter, they are alleging that the government wanted to withdraw that facility that they are using for fuel importation for something else. And I said that never happened, because I checked with my staff and nobody ever justified saying that anything has been told or written to the IDB to divert that fuel facility to something else. So I was telling him, IDB, in addition to this fuel facility, they are processing other loans and financing for other different projects which are different from fuel importation.
Okay. Look at the last paragraph again. You said, for the record, Let me point out that Eagle's fuel supply monopoly to NAWEC and or the Gambia was necessitated by your express ability to fulfill your commitment in the arrangement. It was never conditional on the availability of ITFC credit line of support, which facility came as an enhancement. This ministry, in recognition of such, has always facilitated and supported Eagle's operations in the Gambia and committed to continue doing so. However, we strongly, despise the attitude and threat of a total power shortage, given that it was only in February 2013 that $15 million was rolled over for Eagle for HFO purchases, which supply is still expected to last for at least 4 months. Yeah. We find these letters in the files, but we need to have some context. So I would like you to explain what this was all about.
It's unfortunate that that letter is not available, but if you look at the context here, it's like they were threatening the government that without this facility, we will not provide fuel importation. And my understanding, when they got the exclusivity, it was not premised on an IDB facility. So if the government secures a facility that allows you to secure financing at a more reasonable rate than compared to if you were to secure financing on your own, you should be considerate enough to honor your part of the deal. So I was telling them, your exclusivity is not premised on the IDB facility. The IDB facility came in to facilitate and support. So why now come back and say, if you don't do this, we will not be able to supply? For me, that was not right.
There is, of course, a letter from Euro-Africa Group. But my question to you, Mr. Kuli.
Pardon?
My question is this.
Yes.
If you were so against this exclusivity, why did you not stop it? You were the Minister of Finance.
Well, I don't have the power to stop it.
You came in, sorry, let me just finish. You came in 2009. You came in 2010. You came back in 2012. You came back in 2013. And this thing had gone on and on and on. So, yes.
Well, I don't have the power to stop it. If I had the power, I would have stopped it.
Why did you not have the power to stop?
Because they were given that exclusivity by a higher authority.
Who was the higher authority?
That was the office of the president.
Did you try to stop it?
The reason I tried to stop, not to stop the exclusivity directly, but by telling them that your obligation is to honor this. If you cannot, why don't you allow somebody else to come in? But one, they would not honor their obligations. Second, they would not want somebody else to come in. And this is where the other NAWEC facility came in. Because since I was not successful in breaking this monopoly or transferring that facility they have to another company, we worked with IDB to secure an additional financing, which was purposely for NAWEC. And the idea was to allow GNPC to use that facility to also import, and in parallel you will have competition starting to build up. But that too, when it was secured, they did everything possible to get that one as well.
Did they get it?
Yes, they eventually got it.
What do you mean they did everything? Can you explain that? I mean, that's a rather cryptic statement that doesn't explain much. What did they do to get it?
They wrote a letter to the Office of the President explaining why they should continue to be the sole importer of fuel. And two, they also were expressing that the fuel business is not profitable and they are like doing kind of some Samaritan service to government, which I don't buy. And before you realize, I was moved to another ministry. But I believe all these movements in and out are probably linked also to the fact that I was totally opposed to their mode of operation. Because I secured the financing for GNPC, they did everything possible to take it from GNPC. And yeah.
Okay.
So if I had the power to stop it, I would have stopped it, but I didn't. So that's why I tried to secure alternatives. And those alternatives also were torpedoed.
Okay. If you look at the letter, the bundle, there is a letter dated 16 May 2013 in reply to the letter from Mr. Muhammad Bazi dated 13 May 2013. In his letter of 13 May 2013, which is replying to the letter I just read.
Yes.
And there is a paragraph which tries to explain further. First he says, that is the fourth paragraph. Without a doubt, the manner in which your ministry chooses to utilize its IDB facility is entirely in your discretion, and we would not imply that it should be in any other way other than what your good office believes is best for the country. Honorable Ministry, on the matter of the $15 million US, we wish to explain further, as we may have not been explicit in previous correspondence. The HFO was supplied to us in October 2012, even prior to the 15 million being rolled over. From the various discussions, we were able to provide Total with the IDB and the ministry's confirmation that $15 million would be rolled over. Total International supplied us the HFO at risk. Of course, we were able to achieve this based on several factors, which includes, most importantly, the confidence Total International has in the Gambia itself, coupled with the fact that we have maintained good relationship with them and delivered payment as promised. Now, the letter goes on, but the portion I would like to, the letter, your reply, is the one I'm drawing your attention to. Again, it's 3 paragraphs. And you said, firstly, you did not want to engage in unending series of letter writing. But you say here, I am indeed surprised that you can make such important investment decision based on a simple rollover request without that request being approved. Besides, based on the advice notices sent to us from ITFC on the letters of credit opened for the utilization of its operations in the Gambia, your explanations do not seem to be plausible. And it goes on. So, again, we are trying to get some context about these letters that you exchanged with Mr. Muhammad Bazi. Do you recall?
I'm not sure what you want specifically here.
What was you were exchanging communication about ITFC and their own position and your own position?
Yes.
Well, I assume it's the explanation that you gave that they were, well, let's move on. We will read all the letters. But when did you specifically advise the president to stop the facility? Did you ever do that, the exclusivity?
In my meeting with the president, the meeting I mentioned in my statement where the SG was present, I raised my concerns about this exclusivity and the fact that they are putting a strain on the government finances by not meeting their obligation, and there is need to break the monopoly. Either take away the facility entirely from them or allow GNPC to also be involved in fuel importation. And at that meeting, as I indicated in my statement, the president agreed that he is going to stop them from that facility. In fact, he was going to take the entire facility and give it to GNPC. And when I came back to the office, I reported to my staff. They said, well, Minister, that's good, but we've had that once before, where the permission was given to GNPC to be involved in fuel importation. As they started preparations, that directive was overturned. Now we have a similar approval. Let's hope that it stands. So we hope that it will stand. But as they started their preparations again, that directive came again to stop all over.
I see. Can you look at the letter of 14 June? Is that the letter to the Secretary General, Office of the President? That's your recommendation that GNPC be involved? Ministry of Finance letter, 14 June 2013, signed by yourself.
Yes.
That's the letter in which you recommended that GNPC be involved. There is a following letter dated 23rd June 2013, signed by Muhammad Lamin Jaite, addressed to yourself, Honorable Minister, which says in the second paragraph, may I convey that approval has been granted to your request. However, directives are that you should find out whether GNPC, by both being importer and retailer at the same time, would not violate any petroleum laws. Did you see that letter?
Yes.
What was that about?
What was this letter about?
Yes, that paragraph, that you should find out whether by being importer and retailer at the same time, GNPC would not violate any petroleum laws. This was the initial approval you seem to have been given by the President.
This letter, if you look at the succession of dates, there was this letter I wrote on the 14th of June,
yes,
2013. And this letter followed approval for GNPC to start importation, which they did. And after they got their initial supplies, I understand a query was made by Euro Africa Group that the fuel that these people are bringing is not good quality and so many other things. And I had to call in the MD GNPC and say, look, this is the situation, what is your response? And he helped me with his arguments. And to say that, yes, the offer that they have for NAWEC will give them a lot of savings, as indicated in this letter, and that the product that they are having, according to GNPC, and by tests that they had done, is far better quality than what Euro Africa was bringing. Because according to them, I think they are measured in terminology that I'm not familiar with. They said per 1,000 metric tons, I think theirs is 50 ppm. I don't know what ppm means. And Euro Africa was bringing 500 ppm. So 50 ppm, that's 50 particles per metric cube or something like that. So theirs was a far better quality compared to what Euro Africa was bringing. But still, these people, because they don't want them to be involved in the importation, they had to find all sort of arguments to get them out. So that's why I had to write this letter to continue to justify the presence of GNPC. And now they're asking whether GNPC as an importer and a retailer, will that not break any rules? I asked them, they said no.
Okay, so you did respond to that. And there's a letter of 25th June.
Sorry, we'll have to rise now. And 2:30. Yeah, we'll be back at 2:30.